episode 1 of Abby's Kitchen, my new cooking show inspired by my son, who is a true entrepreneurial spirit. And then also I have a friend who's a hater, and so this is for him too. So I'm gonna do this show anyway. Okay, so I wanted to start out with something simple. The whole premise of this show is what I cook, right? Like, I'm not on Food Network, but people do tend to enjoy my cooking, so I thought I would share some of my recipes, and then that way they can cook it themselves and start asking me to cook it. All right, so we'll start with something simple. I want to do a series of skillet recipes, right? And in skillet, I mean as in cast iron skillet. And if you don't have one of these, you have to get one. I am fortunate. I have a cast iron skillet from my mom and my grandma. And if you want to go all the way back, I used to remember my grandma used to fry fish and chicken, and then all this black stuff would accumulate on the outside of the cast iron skillet, and she would like put it in the fireplace, and then it'd be like brand new when she took it out of the fireplace. So I have my skillet. I've already treated it, and I actually put it in the oven. So for today's recipe, we're going to make cornbread, right? Because there's a difference between cornbread and cornbread. So I'm just going to wash my hands again before we get started. And so this recipe came from my bonus mom, and my kids actually eat it like a dessert, but it's supposed to be cornbread. So here are the ingredients. If you don't want to make a big batch, then of course please have this. But we're going to start with 2 boxes of good old Jiffy. So if you only want to make half of this, of course you only use 1 box of Jiffy. So I'm going to start with 2 boxes of Jiffy corn mix. I actually had a pan that had like individual cutouts for cornbread, so that like all your edges are crispy, because everybody knows you fight for the edges of the cornbread when you cook it in a pan like that. I have preheated my oven to 400 degrees, so that is working. And this is my 2nd box of Jiffy, so I'm going to put that in. This is my Rachel Ray trash bowl. Right, so why would you pay a whole lot of money for a trash bowl, but I had to have it. Alright, so if you don't have one of these, get one of these. Like, it really does scrape everything out of everything. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of get the lumps out of the Jiffy. And then I have 4 eggs. So I'm going to add 4 eggs one at a time. Again, if you're only doing half the recipe, we're only doing 2 eggs. But I'm making a whole pan, so it's going to be 4 eggs. And I have 2 cups of whipped cream. No, sorry, 2 cups of sour cream. Not putting whipped cream in cornbread. 2 cups of sour cream. You're only doing half, it's going to be 1 cup. I have 1 cup of, I use canola oil. You can use corn oil, you can use vegetable oil. I'm using canola oil. And then I have a full-size can of cream corn. So if you're only doing half, you're only going to use one of the small individual cans of cream corn will work. But I'm doing a big batch, so I used a whole can of cream corn. Now I'm just going to mix this and get this completely mixed. You want this completely mixed. And then once this is mixed, we're going to fold in the cream corn, right? Now, you don't know what fold means. You want to make sure that this mix is completely mixed up, because you don't want to break up the corn. So you want to have pieces of corn. Now the recipe doesn't call for extra corn, but I have probably about a half cup of just sweet yellow corn. It's like frozen corn. And I'm just going to throw it in because I like the consistency of those kernels of corn in this cornbread. So it's nice and fluffy, smooth consistency. I've beat out all of the lumps. And so now we're going to fold in the cream corn. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of the cream corn and then fold it. So it's like a rotating, right? I saw it on TV. This is how you fold, right? Once it disappears, I add a little more. I fold that in, just folding. And then I'm just going to add the rest of my cream corn. Now, know before I got started, I made some hot dish water, right? So it's right there, ready to go. So I'm going to fold that in, and then my little extra corn, I'm going to add Not too much stirring after that. All right, so our mix is ready to go. I put my cast iron skillet in the oven just to get it nice and hot, because I like to have my pan nice and buttery. I don't know who else butters their pan like this. Just peel the paper back and just, there's that expensive trash bowl. So I'm just gonna, it is nice and buttery. This is probably not a low calorie version of this. So if you're on a diet, close your eyes. I'm on a diet, but I'm not gonna eat any of this. All right. Okay, so good enough. All right, that's gonna give us a beautiful crust. Now I'm just gonna fold this into the skillet. Okay. I'm making 2 portions, so I'm gonna save the other half because Mikey, who is my cameraman, is gonna take a pan home, and then I'm gonna eat the other pan. All right. So we even it out. We're gonna put it in the 400-degree oven for 25 minutes. So let's see what happens. All right, so it's been a quick 25 minutes, right, in TV time. So I'm gonna take the CONEbread out of the oven. It smells so amazing. Like, look at that. Right, now watch this. Take our butter, just let it melt a little bit. Just run it across the top of this bad boy. This right here, I'm trying to tell y'all, it's gonna change your whole life. I do want this to be a show about like real cooking, like just what I cook when I get home. And I'm also excited about having some guest cooks come on the show. So we are going to cut, because I want you to see how amazing this looks. And I wish you could smell it. So you can take a piece out. Now you have to remember it has sour cream in it. It has cream corn. So it's going to be a little moist in the middle. That doesn't mean it's not done. 25 minutes is generally enough time. You got those crispy brown edges. It's going to fall all apart like a cake. The kids call it cornbread cake. But look at that right there. This with a bowl of chili. Oh my goodness. So, time to eat, y'all. This right here. I can do the whole pan. It's so damn good. So, this week's recipe, join me next week for Abby's Kitchen. Gotta eat.